if you live in a communist system and that was your whole life, you didn't really know, you didn't have freedom. I grew up in China, and the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they are there to control. They control everything, including scientific discoveries. That's why most of the people didn't know the truth and they follow the leadership of the CCP, which is tragic. That's a good example that why I quit scientific research and pursue a media career, because people need to know the facts. If we lose our freedom, you lose your ability to look at the facts, and you are controlled by this tyranny, and you become nothing. For the Epoch Times and NTD, although we keep an eye on the profit, we always follow the heart. That's when you know you're doing the right thing. That's our best business model, because if we can speak truth, we can always find the audience, and we have peace of mind in our heart, and the business is solid because of that.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting, amazing guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a man with an incredible, diverse, high-level background. He is a man with a PhD in molecular biology, and he's had over 10 years experience in the vaccine industry. He is now the president of the NTD television network and a columnist for the incredible, important newspaper, the Epoch Times. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Joe Wang. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you, Nick, for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, my friend. It's my pleasure. So I'm really glad that our mutual friend Roger Simon introduced us. He's a good man, and I'm very excited to be connected with you. So, Joe, the people that listen to this show, they are all believers in freedom as well. They're all champions of freedom, free expression, and free enterprise. They're entrepreneurs, and without freedom, you can't be a successful entrepreneur. It's kind of the basis of having a successful entrepreneurial journey. But they listen to the show because they want to learn from you. They don't want to learn from me. They hear from me every week. They want to know about you and how you can help them act in ways that'll help them grow, be more successful, and all that good stuff. But before they can open themselves up to you, they got to get to know you. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Joe Wang?
Thank you, Nick. Well, I think of myself, greatness is it's not something that I come to my mind, but I did come to today here in Toronto. A long way. I grew up in China. I was born during the Mao's Cultural Revolution.
Wow.
So basically, my mother gave birth to 9 children. Only 6 of us survived. I am the youngest. So in China around that time, it was very tough. It was very tough in terms of disease, in terms of hunger, in terms of the necessities of life. And most of all, I didn't realize that this until I actually come to Canada. It's the freedom. If you live in a communist system, and that was your whole life, you didn't really know, you didn't have freedom. So when I come to Canada, people talk about culture shock, language shock, all the different things. But to me, the biggest shock is freedom. In here, you actually can. I don't like Justin Trudeau. I can just talk about it. But in China, that could be a death sentence if you criticize Xi Jinping, for instance. So, yeah, I did come a long way. I have to say that I worked very hard for this to be able to come to here, because there are so many people that wanted freedom in China. Only a small fraction of us actually were able to come to Canada, the US, and other free countries. But I had to say that it's fate, I would say, and also hardworking. For instance, I was number 3 in the all important college entrance exams when I was finishing high school, ready to go to college. But the competition was was very tough. So among like 100,000 kids, I was number 3. So
Wow.
so I really worked hard for that. So I can score high and I can actually choose my college. So because I grew up as an atheist, because in the Chinese communist system there's no choice. So even your family had a history of certain spirituality. As a matter of fact, most Chinese they believe in God, in Buddha, in higher beings. But the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, basically crushed everything. So when I was growing up during the Cultural Revolution, religion and believing in God and Buddha, and those are forbidden. So I grew up as an atheist, and I was educated like we're the masters of the universe, so we should be able to do everything and anything. And so when I was able to pick and choose my college, I choose the best university in China. It's Fudan University in southern China. It's number 1 is the best, and arguably in northern China, Beijing is the best. So we have a rivalry over there. But in any case, I choose Fudan, and then I choose genetic engineering as my specialty, because we were educated that we can fight heaven, we can fight everything and win. So I had the ambition to be the best scientist, so that we solve the food shortage problem, because all we need to do is to make better crops, right? And we can fight diseases, because all we need to do, we just develop the best vaccines to prevent diseases, and then we develop the best drugs so that we can cure diseases. So I had this ambition, and Fudan was really the best choice, because in Fudan University, the faculties and the academic system is really the American system. Whereas in the northern China, the Beijing University is more like the Soviets, right? So I come to Fudan, I learned from the American educated professors, and so again, I did quite well, and I accepted a full scholarship from the University of Ottawa to be a PhD student, and my supervisor was very good to me. He offered also something called teaching assistant, so that I can make some money, and all my tuitions are waived because of the scholarship. So I was very grateful for Dr. Hickey from the University of Ottawa. I was able to complete my PhD in molecular biology, and then I went to Cornell for my postdoc training, and worked on genetic modified crops, GMOs.
Wow.
So because Cornell is really the best in agriculture research, so I grew up in a very poor area food shortage has always been the problem. And when I was, educated, and I wanted to help solving that problem, so I went to Cornell. I made a tomato plant that is pest resistant using genetic engineering. So I was able to put some genes into tomato plants so that the bugs eat the plant leaf and they die. So that
Wow.
that was my was my research at Cornell. And then I was lucky enough to be able to find a job at Sanofi Pasteur. Used to be called Canal Labs. That was a spin-off of University of Toronto at Steeles and Dufferin area. There was a big campus. Then Canal Labs was basically sold to big pharmaceutical companies. It becomes today's Sanofi Pasteur. When I was there, it was the biggest vaccine company in the world. But now today, I'm pretty sure it's Pfizer. But at that time, we were quite proud of what came out of our company. I think undoubtedly we saved a lot of lives with our products. I can't see it for today's mRNA technology though. So so when I was working for Connaught, I worked on projects like cancer vaccines, and most relevant would be the SARS-1 vaccine in 2003. So if you were around in Toronto at that time, 2003, you probably would remember that we had SARS, SARS-1, and my office was in Sunnybrook Hospital. And that was the epicenter of SARS-1 in Toronto. I happened to be in Lyon for company meetings, and I heard there would be a WHO press conference in Geneva, Switzerland, on some mysterious diseases happening in southern China. Of course, I wanted to actually go and hear what's happening there. So that was SARS-1. So when I come back from Geneva to Toronto, I pitched the idea of developing a SARS vaccine because we were, after all, the #1 vaccine companies in the world. So I was leading a team doing SARS-1 vaccine development. And of course, the disease went away. Unlike COVID-19, it kept going, but SARS-1 disappeared after killing, I think, 41 people in Toronto. And since the disease disappeared, there was no need for a vaccine. So our project actually got stopped. That's because I knew all this, and the virus, although they're different, but they're quite similar actually. So I knew SARS-1 from all different angles. So when SARS-2 come around, I was very interested in the virus and the pandemic, and how did China do, how did the US do, how did Canada do, and that's when the new vaccine come out, the mRNA vaccine, I was quite surprised that they could rush out a vaccine like that, and when Omicron come around, and I thought this could be the best vaccine. Like we tried all these different means, but Omicron, it's like a vaccine nature has given to us. It's probably the best thing that could happen to humanity. But then I heard that dog food and the Ontario government is so afraid of Omicron. They wanted to continue the lockdown and so on and so forth. I was like, no, this is good. So I started to write about the column for the Epoch Times on Omicron or on the vaccine and so on and so forth. So I have been writing ever since. So I guess I talked quite a bit of myself, but how did I move from a vaccine researcher to a media guy? Probably
that's an interesting story, I'm sure.
People might be wondering. So that's so when I was developing those vaccines, I was working for Sanofi, and there's so many smart people in the company. Actually, it's quite stressful because there's one thing in the pharmaceutical industry that people may not be aware. They're so profit driven, and you always have to find, where's my next blockbuster drug? Where's my because if you don't, because the profit margin is so big, and the companies got used to it. So if they don't find the next blockbuster, the company might go under. So we were always under the stress to find the most profitable. So you would develop something called pipelines. So you start with maybe 100 projects. At the end of the several years, if one of the projects becomes your blockbuster product, then you're good. If not, then the company will go under. And in a lot of cases, the pharmaceutical companies, if their own research cannot come out with a big blockbuster product, then they would have to acquire. So they go buy a company here and there. So they buy their product and then they continue. So that's the pharmaceutical industry. Because their product margin, profit margin is so big, so they get used to it, and then they just have to keep going. And for a vaccine company, I mean, I come to the industry because two of my brothers, they died from diseases early, just a few days after they were born. We didn't even know what the disease was because poor hygiene, poor everything in China around that time. I wanted every newborn being protected from all the diseases. So that's why I actually went to the vaccine company to start with. But then, you realize that we have to find the next vaccine, vaccines for this and that. And so I lost count in today's CDC recommendation for a child. You have like 30 vaccines that you have to do. That's a lot. I doubt if every one of them are necessary. Some of them might be necessary, but I doubt if every one of them. So when a health issue becomes a profit problem, there might be a problem. I'm just, without criticizing my former industry too much, I just say that. Like I think vaccines or drugs, they are for human health, um, and there's nothing wrong to make money while you're protecting people's health. But if it's driven by that, and there was so much like pressure to um, to come out with a new vaccine or a new drug, and you kind of overlook all the other issues like side effects and so on. There was a problem, and in today's COVID vaccine, I see that as a very good example. Vaccines are given to healthy people to start with, so not like drugs. So the mRNA technology is for gene therapy. So when a person is close to die from phase 3, phase 4 cancer, for instance. So a person is given like 2-3 months to live. Sure, you use this technology to save the life. That's fine with me. I think I can approve that. But for a healthy person and in a large scale, using that kind of technology, it's very risky. And without doing a lot of testing and the necessary steps to rule it out and mandate to all the healthy people, that's just too much. I questioned that at the beginning, and now I start to see the side effects, and
Yes.
and I feel like something went terribly wrong, actually.
Well, Joe, I'm not a molecular biologist and I didn't study creating vaccines, but my understanding is that you can't develop a safe vaccine in 9 months. It's impossible.
It is impossible. So that's why I started to write about them. I was part of the industry, and I was in the basically the research department of that industry. Basically, the first a few steps when you develop a vaccine. Obviously, there's a lot of more steps involved before you actually have a product, and you test them, and you can certify them, and to be given to healthy people. So I don't know. I'm not an expert in every step, but I was in the industry for more than 10 years. I know roughly what are the steps, and each step may take a certain time. And 9 months is just impossible. And now we see the side effects, and just to give you an example, like I heard, oh, using mRNA, that's actually a little assuring, because I knew RNAs are easy to be degraded, so you should not stay in your body for a long time. So you take something, even it's harmful, it's gonna go away. So the harm will not last. So I that's my first impression. But what actually happened was they actually made the RNA molecule very stable by changing the chemistry. That's very scary. When I read reports, scientific and peer-reviewed reports, that they are so if a mother takes the vaccine, the RNA can be found in the milk that's given to the infant. Wow, I don't know. So what what did they do to make the RNA so stable? And once it's genetic material, so if it's stable, it goes somewhere and it does the thing. And the spike protein that it codes, it's not a benign protein. It's a non-toxic. So it's just I guess it would be better if I didn't know this much. I would sleep better, but I happen to know this, and I had to write about it. So that's a good example that why I basically quit scientific research and pursue a media career, because people need to know the facts. I grew up in China, and the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they are there to control. They control everything, including scientific discoveries. So that's why most of the people didn't know the truth, and they follow the leadership of the CCP, which is tragic. I taste the freedom in Canada because this is still a free country. But when I was working for Sanofi, as I said, the job is quite stressful. So I started to practice Falun Gong, a meditation, to relieve my stress. It's a Chinese practice. It's a Buddha school practice. It's very good for your health, and it doesn't have any political affiliations. But because it becomes so popular in China, the CCP wouldn't allow a group out of the CCP control. So they started to outlaw the practice, a meditation practice.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And when the persecution didn't go anywhere, they started to use media propaganda to defame people who does the meditation, saying they're crazy people, they kill babies. So it's just like the Nazis did to the Jews, in order to.
Or Justin Trudeau did to the truckers.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to that, because that's what tyranny do. That's what dictatorship do. So because they control all the narrative, the media, so they were able to do that. So the thing that drew me to media was that when I was working in Sanofi, I had very good friends. We're all like PhD, very well-educated scientists. I would say that my colleagues wouldn't believe in the CCP propaganda, but I was wrong. Some of them they kept distance from me, which hurt me very much, because they kind of bought into the propaganda. So I decided to I went to Rogers and asked for time on their community channel, and I was lucky enough to find there's a time slot. I started a program called Mandarin Time to tell people, what the practice is about. And before I know it, we have people from Taiwan, from Tibet, from the Uyghurs. We all wanted to have a voice, and before I know that, we have people in Toronto doing similar things, as people in New York City, London, Paris, and Sydney. So we started this network called the New Tang Dynasty TV. So that's how I got started with media. So I was doing vaccine research, daytime media in nighttime and holidays. And then I found this is just too much. And in 2008, I quit vaccine to do media. It was not a difficult choice, because vaccines, I really truly believe a good vaccine could save people's life. But if we don't have free media, if we lose our freedom, like the truckers, that could be, we could live like the Chinese living in the 1960s. Yes. That would be a bad thing, very bad.
Cultural Revolution, it's estimated, caused the death of 60 million Chinese.
At least
60 million. That is
60 to 80, I think.
60 to 80. That's basically two Canadas. Two Canadas died.
Yeah, well, I mean, before that, the Great Leap Forward actually killed one of my sisters because the scientists were lying. The CCP was driving them to lie because when the CCP took power, they say, okay, well, the communism will help every aspect of your life, including growing crops. So the local official would boost their local agriculture output so that they can be recognized by their superiors. So what happened was, so village A would say, okay, well, our output is 5 times of last year. And village B would say, yeah, this is nothing. We did 10 times. And village C would say, we have 300 times of the output of last year. Guess what? You have to pay tax on what you reported. So the central government will collect all the crops, leaving nothing for the villagers. So my sister, she was like 3 years old. She died of hunger at her home because the CCP took all the food out of the villagers simply because some officials wanted to get promoted. And my family was the lucky one.
That's disgusting.
We only lost one member. I had neighbors, their whole family wiped out just because of that. So this is actually called Great Leap Forward movement, meaning that because communism is so good, the output of everything has jumped many times. That's only on paper. So
not in reality.
Who's suffering?
Not in reality.
Yeah, so the people are suffering, and you said, the Great Cultural Revolution killed 60 million Chinese people. So the Great Leap Forward was before that. It's in the 1958 to 1960. That was 5 years before the Great Cultural Revolution. And that, in my province alone, I think they were talking about millions of people died. And my family my sister was one of them. I knew it happened. So it was, so when you lose freedom, you lose your ability to look at the facts, and you were controlled by this tyranny, and you become nothing. So when the truckers movement happened in Canada, if the government uses the Emergency Act to silence those, you can imagine what can come next. Gradually, you will lose your freedom, and we become people living under CCP. That's going to be very bad.
Yeah, I think I'm from Iran, and I grew up during the Iranian Revolution, and
wow.
I was 11 years old when the Iranian Revolution took place. It was 1978.
Wow.
And we left Iran in 1980. I was there for almost 2 years when all that happened.
Wow.
My parents would tell me, keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Don't say certain things. And I wouldn't listen because I was headstrong. It caused us problems. Someone threw a Molotov cocktail through our living room window with a note on it that said, "Die Christian scum," because we're Christians.
Wow.
And I'm very grateful to be free and living in a free country. And that's why I'm very vigilant to make sure that those in power don't take our freedom away. It is my opinion that Justin Trudeau is not a traditional Canadian liberal. He is not like, Paul Martin or Jean Chrétien or, Lester Pearson or even his father. He is closer to the folks that run the CCP. And
Well,
what he
he
did
did
was terrible. And
he did say that
he must be defeated in the next election if we are to maintain freedom in this country. If the Liberal Party were to win and he was at its head, freedom in Canada is going to be lost. So it's very important that anyone who cares about Canada understands that, and that maybe you voted for the Liberals 20 years ago, and that's fine, but you can't vote Liberal today. Not if you love Canada, not if you love freedom. It's impossible.
Well, before Justin Trudeau came to power, he said that he admired the CCP system. So
China's basic dictatorship, he calls it.
That's right. So you remember that, right?
Basic dictatorship. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
No. So listen, but what you did was great. You took a stand for freedom and you took a stand for what mattered. But tell us, because what your media company and what the Epoch Times has done is they've actually created quite a very powerful business model. So could we speak about that for a couple minutes from that point of view?
Sure. I think as a business, I think you always try to find the profit, right? But my experience is that if you I have spoken quite in length about the pharmaceutical industry chasing profit. I think that will be wrong, and I think for the Epoch Times and NTD, what we have been doing is, although we keep an eye on the profit, but we always follow the heart. That's when you know you're doing the right thing, and that's when you know that when you actually go through difficulties, you will always have a like-minded team to fight with you and go through the difficulty with you. And there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. We knew that when we were very difficult running the business, and today we are. I think we're doing okay in terms of profitability, and we're very grateful for this, and we can actually speak freely, so we can report on the truth, and we can we're not affiliated or controlled by any government or any other organizations, so that you can only see certain things. We're free of all that, and that's our best business model, because if we can speak truth, we can always find the audience, and we have peace of mind in our heart, and the business is solid because of that.
You speak about driving from the heart, and I want to just address that for a moment. There's something we teach in the work we do with business owners called heart leadership. I mean, we teach thought leadership as well, which is how to take your best ideas and to turn them into IP, intellectual property, and use that to be of service to people. But we say that the best thought leaders are actually heart leaders, because they lead with their heart. They speak the truth, and they come from a deep love for humanity and a caring for humanity. And unfortunately, human nature has a light side and a dark side, right? The dark side can be seen in the actions of the communism and Marxist ideology. And the light side can be seen in the work of people like some of the practitioners of Falun Gong and the folks at Epoch Times, and with your TV network as well. And I think that's a fantastic thing. I wrote a book that just came out. That's how I got reconnected with Roger, and he wrote a nice piece about our book because the book is a list of companies that are pro freedom and not pro woke and pro communism. And this is the book. It looks like this. It's 123 companies. I wrote it with Wayne, Alan Root. We've been on a bunch of shows. Wow. We want to get on a bunch more, but we wrote it as a labor of love because we want to give people a choice. We went and we created a scale to grade how these companies do around things like their marketing messaging. Is it freedom oriented, or is it woke oriented? Are they virtue signaling? They're about things like their commitment to freedom, their hiring policies. Do they hire the best people, or they try to do identity politics? Their political involvement, are they virtue signaling, or are they sticking to their business and their culture? Are they trying to force their employees to have one view, or do they allow their employees to have whatever views they want? And these are the things we use to come up with the companies. And Epoch Times is here, is in the list. It is company number 14 in the top 20 list. So it's
not bad.
It's pretty darn good.
Thank you.
The 20 most patriotic got the first chapter, and so it's for us, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to put the book together. And for me, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to interview you today. And I hope that this is the first of many associations we can have. I'd be delighted to be able to do more and different things with you and with the organization as a whole. I think it's great. Keep doing what you're doing, Joe. So we like to end off each episode by asking you, as our guest expert, for your best 3 pieces of advice. We call them expert action steps. These are things that you believe listeners can take on in their life or even in their business to really take it to the next step. So what do you say?
Well, if you're doing business, not just following money, follow your heart. I think that's number one. If you chase money too much, then that could be a problematic approach. So follow your heart. It's the most important. And second will be true to yourself and be truthful on your business as well. You can be selective in looking at some of the issues, but you just have to be truthful. And have a very realistic assessment of what's going on. And well, the third one, I think, believe in humanity. So today we have different views of the world, but I think human beings are precious, and we should believe in our communities, believe in our fellow Canadians, so that we together will make this country a better place and our business more profitable.
Amen, my friend. Amen. Well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
So where can people go to find out more about Epoch Times?
Well, I'm epochtimes.com and NTD.com, and so I'm doing more on the TV side. I'm only writing for the Epoch Times. So the Epoch Times, go to the website and find Joe Wang. I'm a columnist like Roger. So I have some articles there, mostly about COVID-19.
Great. And
really, I'm trying to make NTD the most powerful TV network. So visit ntd.com regularly and watch our programs.
Absolutely, 100%. We'll make sure all that gets put in the show notes. And my podcast producer works with you too, so I know he'll get it all right.
Yes.
So listener, Joe Wang, a great man, a great humanitarian, a man who leads from the heart. And I think the title of this episode, I was wondering what to name the episode, because there's so much we talked about. But the title I like, and Joe, I'm sure you're going to like it too, is Don't Just Chase Money. Follow your heart.
Follow your heart.
And
yes.
everything is going to be great when you do that.
Yes. Yes.
So listener, make sure that you go check out all the links that are going to be in the show notes. If you want to find out more about Joe, about his television network, about the work he does with Epoch Times, it's all there. And strive to bring your own heart more into your business. You're going to be more successful when you come from a space of caring for your fellow man and woman. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's incredible guest, the one and only Joe Wang, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, Google Play, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.